And let's move on to the defense and talk about another thing that Penn State fans really want, and that is sacks and pressure. Christian says need to get pressure from the Penn State defense. So kind of going into that conversation about Braden Locke, something I found this week, in situations where he's moved off the spot or he's under pressure, he is the third worst quarterback in college football. He has a average completion of 3.5 yards and something like a sub 40% completion percentage under pressure. So those two things put together, I know, Ryan, you said that you think Penn State's defense can get after it from a
right
structural perspective. Bowling Green had a similar plan: run the ball, be tenacious, get the ball out quick. Do you see any sort of blueprint to hang around in this?
Illinois had a similar plan too. To just that, it really was. I mean, Illinois was throwing short stuff all game, but I think Penn State's defense will be fine. Again, they're going to get the ball out quick, but they've done a great job at containment all year. And if you can limit them to 5, 6, 7 yard passes throughout the game, you're going to be in a good spot. So I think it is really critical, important for Penn State's defense to come out very strong, just because we've seen this offense struggle in first halves, especially first quarters and times like that. So to me, this is a 13-10 game at halftime, and then Penn State's offense takes over in the second half. I still feel very confident that Penn State's defense can maintain, contain, limit to maybe a touchdown, maybe 10 points in the first half, and do what they've done all year, which is dominate in the third quarter.
Fitz, any other thoughts on either offense or defense? Because I'm leaning on you for special teams before we get to our predictions here.
Wisconsin's -3 in the turnover game. They put the ball on the ground quite a bit. They've got 13 fumbles this year. They've lost 7 of them. They've got a bunch of interceptions. So Penn State has not been overly aggressive in turning the ball over. But they may have some opportunities this weekend. So I'm curious about that. Yes, they get the ball out quick. Yeah, I mean, just play the broken record here. You get the ball out quick, which is going to negate some of the pressure, but not all of the pressure. And I think that the pressure can still get there. Guys like Abdul, Nittany, the usual suspects, Zane Durant especially.
Yeah.
Again, it's the same basic thing. Don't get too far upfield. Don't over pursue, and Penn State should be fine. Yards don't score points. Completion percentage doesn't score points. Wisconsin's, I think, 46% on third downs. That's going to be sort of an interesting test to see how Penn State can respond to that. But I think some of those numbers are kind of juiced by the competition they've played in the last couple of weeks. So I do think there's plenty of advantages for Penn State here. Again, playing the scenario, playing the situation probably keeps it a little bit closer than it should be. But at the same time, the talent on the field, the depth on the field, I think is strongly in Penn State's favor.
Cliff, are you trolling us here?
Of course, Cliff, of course he's.
I mean, I understand what he's saying. Like, just the spot is a bad spot. I thought,
but
okay.
We had a whole segment yesterday dedicated to how this wasn't a trap game with Greg, and I'm just like, to come in the next day and be like, "Yo, trap game." Like, I don't know if he's trolling us or because like that is a common theme with Penn State fans this week.
Behind the curtain, yes. Frank, behind the curtain. I've already texted Cliff. He's one of my college buddies.
What's funny to me about Greg's take with that, though, is that like Greg knows gambling well, those sports betting lines and things like that. And like, if you look at a lot of the top professional gamblers and things around the country, like they would kind of classify this as that, though, just because of the spot with Ohio State next week. And, oh, by the way, coming off a bye, which Penn State's 3-6 all time against Big Ten teams under Franklin, coming off byes. Like, there are things there where I kind of disagree with Greg a little bit on that. Now, at the same time, I do feel like Penn State's substantially more talented than Wisconsin, and that should play out on the field. But I don't know, there are some metrics there that kind of would hint towards that.
All right, well, let's see what you think then, Ryan. We'll start with you. Our game predictions here to end the week on the BWI live show. What do you think is going to happen? Tell us how you think the game is playing out and what your prediction was this week.
24-14 is my score. Look, I feel like Penn State can get into the 30s too. I just feel like I could see their offense starting slow off a bye week. They've kind of started slow in quite a few games, and that's what's going to limit this. Like I said, I can see 14-10 at halftime, somewhere in that kind of ballpark. I could even either way, Wisconsin maybe leaning, whatever it may be. But I fully expect Penn State's defense to take over in the second half. Penn State's offense, especially in the run game, to take over in the second half, just like they did against Illinois. That has been an issue for Wisconsin against the top teams that they've played. They have worn down in the second half, and I fully expect Penn State to be able to do that. Obviously, let's see if Nick Singleton's healthy. I think he should be by now, hopefully, after a couple of weeks to rest. And, obviously was able to play against USC, so it's nothing major. But I see this being another heavy dose of ground game. Maybe Aller gets to 200 yards passing, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's more than 200 yards rushing.
Fitz, what do you think?
I've got Penn State 27, Wisconsin 14. Shorted me 3 points there, but
yeah.
My bad.
There you go.
Wrong graphic.
Yeah, I know. Ryan Barker is going to come after you. No, I think that Penn State's going to have an opportunity. I think it's going to be close in the first half. I do. Wisconsin's been up and down in terms of fast starts. They've kind of hung their hat on it through this 3-game stretch, but obviously you go back to the opponent, it matters. So they got walloped right off the bat in against Alabama. So you just keep going back and figuring which batch of games you want to compare this to. And, obviously I think with Penn State, you got to side with Alabama and USC. So I think Penn State's going to have an opportunity to, sort of flesh out that gap in the second half. They've been phenomenal in the third quarter and maybe get a turnover too. It'd be nice to see them going in that direction. I think the running back is very good. I think the offensive line is solid, which makes them a good college offensive line. Penn State's defensive line probably going to be tested a little bit more than they're used to, but they're going to have the opportunity to make some plays there on the back end as well.
Yeah, and just because I haven't really talked about it in detail, I think the center for Wisconsin, I think 67 is his number. Really athletic guy, could get pushed around. 71, really athletic for being 6'8", but is a 6'8" sort of athletic, where if Denai Dennis Sutton gets under his pads, that's going to be a problem for the right tackle. And that's something that I think ultimately in these situations, talk about a good challenge for Penn State. I think these are good challenges that they can overcome. It's interesting with the number of analysts, with the changes to some of the things in Penn State's structure. I think they come out hot after this bye week. And also, I'm believing in Andy Kotelnicki as a leader on the offensive side and Drew Aller as a quarterback, that they are going to get off to faster starts, which means also the points total as well. So they have not reached that 40-point total regularly this year, but 30s are manageable. I feel a little bit like Wisconsin might challenge Penn State more after watching Braden Locke against these other teams. Fitz is right to point out it is Rutgers, it is Northwestern, but he has looked like a competent quarterback, where he did not, both in my preseason evaluation of him from last year and in some of the early games that we saw from him this year. So I think they can challenge Penn State, but Penn State wins. They get into the 30s. That's what I got for this game. Fitz, any final thoughts to get us out of here?
Not really. I think that Penn State's going to have an opportunity to do this on a national stage, even though I still don't know that Wisconsin's a good team, but it would be a heck of a win. I mean, you every game's hard, and that's what I keep going back to, is you just avoid the Vanderbilt, avoid all the upsets that are coming this way or that are coming that way. And hey, at the end of the day, the 0 in the loss column is what matters. And whether you win by 3 or you win by 25, you're on to the next week. So I think that's what I keep going back to and keep hammering home in this 12-team playoff, is just keep your record as sparkling as long as you can.
Follow over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com to get more information from Ryan about recruiting news and high school news, all those things. Fitz will be with me for the postgame show coming up this weekend. More predictions, more previews coming on Saturday in the Penn State football tailgate show in conjunction with Seven Mountains Media. We're going to be live from the Field Burger and Tap in State College. So come out, say hi, join us, have a burger. It's going to be a great time as we preview Penn State, Wisconsin coming up Saturday. Oh, by the way, it is a 4:30 airtime for the tailgate show coming up this weekend. So make sure you join us and we'll have a good time together. We'll preview the game, then join us after the game for the postgame show. Don't leave. We like hanging out.